Every October 31st, millions of kids dress up like ghouls, superheroes, and bananas, and then march door to door demanding candy. And somehow, we've all agreed this is completely normal. But have you ever stopped to wonder, why are we doing this? Why the costumes? Why the candy? Why is it totally fine one night per year for kids to knock on strangers' doors and demand food? What started as a night of disguises and superstition somehow turned into a neighborhood-wide sugar heist, and one of the most profitable traditions in America, worth over $12 billion a year. Let's unwrap the weird, wonderful history of trick-or-treating. Like many oddly specific traditions, it starts with the Celts. Over 2,000 years ago, they celebrated Samhain, a fire festival marking the end of harvest and the start of winter, when the boundary between the living and dead gets blurry. People wore animal skin costumes to disguise themselves from spirits, and left food outside to keep ghosts happy, or at least distracted. It wasn't called trick-or-treating yet, but the recipe was there: disguises, doorsteps, and offerings. Fast forward to medieval Europe, where All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day brought a Christian twist. Children, and sometimes poor adults, would go door to door on November 1st asking for food in exchange for prayers for the dead. This was called souling, and the treats were little pastries called soul cakes. And yes, if you refused to hand one over, the kids might recite a creepy rhyme or mess with your door. A little divine guilt, a little low-stakes revenge. In Scotland and Ireland, this morphed into Guising, where kids dressed up in costumes and performed a joke, poem, or song in exchange for a treat. Basically, pay me in candy or I do a little tap dance and curse your house. When Irish and Scottish immigrants came to America in the 1800s, they brought their customs with them: costumes, souling, and guising. But the version of Halloween they knew wasn't a holiday. It was a mix of ancient folklore and Catholic feast days. So how did it become a national event here? Blame the calendar. October 31st had long been the Eve of All Saints' Day, aka All Hallows' Eve. And in the US, that Eve part stuck. Communities began throwing Halloween-themed harvest festivals, often with spooky decorations and lighthearted nods to the dead. By the late 1800s, women's magazines were publishing Halloween party ideas. Church groups hosted ghost story nights and bobbing for apples contests. It wasn't about demons, it was about community fun with a little seasonal flair. But kids, they had a different idea. By the early 1900s, Halloween night had turned into something else entirely: chaos, pranks, vandalism, street gangs causing mischief under the cover of darkness. One newspaper described Halloween as an annual opportunity for youth to release their more destructive instincts. To stop the mayhem, cities tried a new tactic: bribery. They offered parties, parades, and eventually, candy to keep kids busy. The message was clear: if you're going to knock on someone's door, maybe ask nicely and wear something adorable. If you're still here, congrats, you've officially survived the trick part. Now let's get to the treat. Hit subscribe if you're into strange history, nostalgia, and answers to questions you didn't even know you had. We've got new videos every other week, no costumes required. The phrase trick or treat first popped up in the 20s and 30s, mostly out west. Kids would knock on doors and say it like a warning: give me a treat or I might do something you won't like. Early on, it was still controversial. Some adults saw it as sugar-coated extortion. Then World War II hit. Sugar was rationed. Halloween went quiet. After the war, everything changed. Suburbs boomed, families filled neighborhoods, and Halloween became a kid-centered, parent-approved ritual. Magazines encouraged it, schools promoted it, companies saw dollar signs. Candy brands jumped on board fast. Before the 50s, people handed out cookies, popcorn balls, and fruit. But individually wrapped candies were safer, easier, and more profitable. By the 1970s, ads from companies like Mars and Hershey's were actively defining Halloween as a candy holiday. They didn't just ride the trend, they built it. And then came the panic. Starting in the 70s, news reports warned of razor blades in apples, poison candy, and needles hidden in chocolate bars. It was the perfect mix for moral hysteria: kids, strangers, and sugar. Local news ran the stories on loop. Grainy footage of police officers dumping candy onto tables, mothers clutching their children, reporters warning parents to check every piece. Halloween went from a night of fun to a night of fear. But here's what most people didn't realize. Almost none of it was true. Investigations found that nearly every poisoned candy case was a hoax, an accident, or in one tragic case, something far worse. A father in Texas who poisoned his own son's pixie sticks for insurance money in 1974. One man's crime became a nationwide ghost story. And once fear took hold, there was no going back. Homemade treats, popcorn balls, cookies, caramel apples, they vanished overnight. Only sealed, factory-made candy was considered safe at all. And guess who was waiting in the wings? The candy companies. They saw an opportunity to turn safety into sales. Ads from Hershey's, Mars, and Necco started emphasizing sealed for your protection. By the early 1980s, Halloween marketing exploded. Full-page magazine spreads, cartoon mascots, and limited edition holiday wrappers. They even created the Fun Size Bar, bite-sized candy marketed as the perfect handout for trick-or-treaters. It made the candy look friendlier, cleaner, and most importantly, more necessary. Halloween was no longer about scaring ghosts. It was about trusting brands. Parents weren't just buying candy, they were buying peace of mind. The candy industry didn't just survive Halloween, it owned it, turning fear into a fortune and locking down the sweetest monopoly in history. Today, Halloween is safer, softer, and more organized. Kids light up like traffic cones. Parents track them on GPS. Some neighborhoods don't even go door to door. They do trunk or treats in parking lots. It's efficient, it's safe, and it's a little boring. But there's still magic in it. A costume, a chill in the air, and a pillowcase full of sugar. For one night, the world feels small, connected, and kind of spooky again. It's weird, it's fun, and it's the one night a year where your neighbors owe your kids candy. So the next time you hear trick or treat, just remember, you're witnessing a 2,000-year-old-ish tradition involving ghosts, prayers, costumes, vandalism, and capitalism, boiled down into fun-sized Snickers. If that's the kind of thing you didn't know you needed, hit subscribe. We post weird, nostalgic deep dives every other week, and we promise, no raisins in the bag.